Welcome to Who's Who in 2022. Keep Indiana Learning is going to be talking about who's who and who you should be following and listening to and reading related to leadership. And I have with me today two very exciting guests from the Indiana Department of Ed. Let me introduce myself first. I am Laurie Ferry, the Director of Keep Indiana Learning, and I'm going to let my two lovely guests introduce themselves first. We'll start with Rebecca.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Estes. I'm the Senior Director of Educator Talent at the Department of Education and excited to be here with you today.
Fantastic. And Alicia.
Hello, Alicia Gatewood, Senior Director of Student Supports and Accessibility, and I also am very excited to be here today.
Fantastic. And we are dressed for the new year. Woo! We have all of our glitter on and our hats, and we are dressed for the new year because we are going to be talking about, again, who's who in 2022. So the way this is going to work, we are going to pull out some questions out of our top hat, and we are going to be sharing with you our insights and expertise about leadership. And we all have thought deeply about some of these questions, but we don't know which question is going to pop up. And so I'm going to start with who would like to draw the first question?
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right.
Maybe we'll fight for it.
Okay. All right. Well, Alicia, do you want to? Do you feel like you fought Rebecca? Okay.
You are the clear winner here.
Okay. All right. All right. What is that first question?
So first question, what are 3 books every new leader should have on their bookshelf?
Okay.
3 books, every leader.
Books.
So since I drew the question, I'll answer last.
Okay.
All right.
Well, since you drew the question, who would you like to go first?
Oh, well, you lost the first time, so you can go now.
Okay. 3 books that every leader should have on their shelf. Well, currently I'm reading Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, and I feel like that is a really great book to have on your shelf. Dan Heath's Upstream is another one. I just watched him speak at Cell, and just super inspiring and some great leadership attributes that are listed in that book. And then the last one is not a book that is written, but I really feel like you should have just a blank book on your shelf as a leader so that you can be reflective constantly to continue to grow yourself.
Ooh, those are good
Like
ideas.
your
Now I'm getting really deep here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. So I'm very interested in Simon Sinek because he is 2 of my 3 books.
Okay.
So I have not read Leaders Eat Last,
You'll have
but
to.
that is
Yeah,
next
good book.
on my, well, I don't know about next because you know there's like this big
There's
list.
lots of next.
Yeah, there's like this big list of books that I want to read. I also do a lot of listening to books. I do a lot of audio books, but then if I love the book, I go back and get the book like so that I can mark it up
And touch it.
and touch it. Yeah, I do love to touch, but I also just do a lot of driving. So I try to do the audio book so that I can, listen, and then if I love it, then I go and get the book. Anyway, so my top 3, I digress. My top 3 would be, I love Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Mm-hmm. And then we are actually doing a book study on the Keep Indiana Learning team on The Infinite Game. Ooh. Have you guys delved into that one?
But now I have to put it on my list as well.
Yes. So can I
Please.
elaborate? So The Infinite Game is about how we can play the finite game or we can play the infinite game. And the finite game is where there is a winner and a loser. And so when we think about sports, for example, there's a winner and there's a loser, and there's clearly rules to the game. When you play the infinite game, you aren't playing to win, you're playing to continue to play the game. And so the book talks about things like a just cause, that you play for a reason, that you play for your just cause, that you, again, aren't in competition with someone. You are in it for the betterment of your cause. And so my team has really taken this to heart in terms of, we're an educational service center. We do our work to support educators, and ultimately to support students. And so it has been a real learning experience for us to take in that book and think about our work as an infinite game of always working to do the absolute best that we can do in our mission and vision to serve others. So I would highly recommend
It sounds
that.
fantastic.
It really
book.
does.
Yeah.
Although I did enjoy our game where I clearly lost.
Yeah, I did not mean to pontificate. So, but my third one, and we'll get to yours at some point, Alicia. So my third one is I have really dug into Brene Brown's work. I listen to podcasts, I've listened to lots of her books, and Dare to Lead is one that I think every leader should read. Have you guys dove into any of her work? Yeah, she's addictive. Because I think Dare to Lead talks about things like how to be humble in your leadership and how to be vulnerable in your leadership and how to, it reminds me a lot of Simon Sinek's work. And I think what Leaders Eat Last is going to tell me is some of the Brene Brown ideas. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So, because I've heard a podcast between the two of them, and I think
Yes. Have you read her new book?
I have not yet. No,
Okay.
but I ordered. Actually, I'm getting it for Christmas because
Spoiler alert.
I know. Well, I like to tell people specifically what I want for Christmas because I like to get what I want for Christmas.
Well,
So
this will go out after Christmas, so we'll be able to come back and check, like, did you actually get it?
Yes, that's so true. I will tweet about it. I got the Atlas book for Christmas. Yes, that's great. That's great. Okay, so your three
my
books.
three are Grit, Angela Duckworth, similar themes to books that you all mentioned, and then Shifting the Monkey, Todd Whitaker. I think I just finished reading that for the 7th time. So that's
so
something.
I'm not familiar. Grit, I'm familiar with.
Okay,
Fantastic book. So talk about
Shifting the Monkey is really about how the leader can, he calls it sidling up next to someone. So some of your more difficult staff members are challenging staff members how to get them to come along with the vision. So he talks about that, but he also talks about, and I was very guilty of this as a building principal, taking on people. I had an open door. People would come into my office. They would say things. They would, drop things off on my plate, and I would take them. And at some point, then I still have to be able to get my own work done. And so he talks about shifting that monkey. If you always have someone, even someone who always volunteers to do the really good things and is always signing up to take on more, they're taking on some monkeys too, and how to help them not do that. And then my third book would be Closing the Attitude Gap, and my work by Principal Kafele. My work at the state really is about supporting those students who maybe don't have some other supports. So if I'm a special education student, I have a teacher of record. If I'm an EL student, I also have a teacher of record. But we have a lot of brown and black students who don't have that additional support, that don't qualify for special ed and don't qualify for EL services. And so Closing the Attitude Gap helps teachers prepare their classrooms and their ideas for our black and brown students to help them achieve as well. So
I love that.
those are my three.
I love that. I'm going to have to read that one.
I'll send you a whole list.
Oh, excellent.
To add to your stack.
Love that. All right, Rebecca, you ready to draw from the hat?
It's my turn because Alicia won last time.
I'm not going to wrestle you for it.
Okay.
All right.
All right, here it is. Ooh. If you were driving cross country, which leadership guru would you want in the car with you and why? So I drew the question. I get to pick who goes first? I'm totally going first.
Okay. You're going to go first?
Yes,
Is that what you
yes.
said? Okay.
It's the only sure way that I'm going to win. Okay, if I was driving cross country, which leadership guru? I mentioned Dan Heath in his book Upstream. I would just love to sit and have a conversation with him about some of the work that guided his writing of that book. But I feel like I'm going to throw in just a little wrench and say I want Adele in the back seat too. Ooh. Because when I'm driving cross country, I want the music up, blasting. So I feel like she could bring some insight to that, but then we could have like car karaoke at the same time, right?
Oh,
yes. Who's the comedian that does the car karaoke?
I don't know his name because I'm terrible at that kind of stuff,
You
but
know
I know what you're talking
about.
about.
People are watching this and thinking, you guys are
Why don't you
idiots.
know
How do
his
you not
name?
know?
Yeah. I don't know
I think
his
it's
name.
like Jim or James or
Let's go with
starts
Jim.
with a J.
Jim.
Yes.
We're calling him Jim.
We're all being
okay.
called
We're
right
just gonna
now.
call him
the
really
wrong
name.
idiotic people.
Own
Okay.
it. But Adele's
right.
with us, so it's okay.
Adele is with us, and so
Yes.
she can do all the singing, and we don't have to do any of the
100%.
singing.
I'm going
Yes,
to
I
remember
love
his
it.
name much later.
Yes,
That's
yes,
what's
you
going to
will.
happen.
Yeah.
It's just going to pop into my head.
So I have
And,
Adele in my car, so you can't have her.
Okay.
And Dan Heath. But so
Okay.
who are you breaking?
Okay, I am going to bring 3 people.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, I know it only said if you were, but
Do you have an SUV?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Okay.
And I'm not going to bring anybody that's going to sing, although they might sing, but they're not. Okay, so I'm going to bring Simon Sinek
Okay.
because his work fascinates me. And anytime that I've listened to his podcast, first of all, super cute voice, right? His accent, so fun. So I love the accent. But also, he just has a fascinating sense of the world. It's very altruistic. It's very, very global. And so I just want to pick his brain about his work and his thinking. So I think that would be fascinating. And then I love Daniel Pink's work around drive. And I love his work about what motivates people. And I would just love to hear his more about his research. He's coming out with a new book, unless it's already been published. And you're going to ask me the name, and I don't remember it.
We'll look it up when we're looking at Jim.
Yes,
John
yes, and yes, and the karaoke man, yes. And then you know who else who has kind of fallen off the radar, maybe my radar a little bit, is Malcolm Gladwell. And I loved his Tipping Point and his Outliers and some of his other books. And I think that any new leader, I know we're not on that question, but I think any new leader should read that work. And so I think with those 3 people in the car, could you imagine Daniel Pink, Simon Sinek, and Malcolm Gladwell?
You're not going to get your car
I
like in
was gonna
drive, though.
say,
You're just going to be
I know,
stuck
right?
listening.
Just the
or you're driving
conversation.
all the way from the East Coast to the West
Yeah.
Coast,
Yeah.
like all the way straight through, I,
I
think,
know,
to
right?
get all that in.
Yeah, and then I'm thinking I sit in the back and one of them drive, and because I just want to listen. That's my cross-country
Okay.
trip. Yeah.
I should have
great
gone
plan.
first because I followed the rules and chose one person. So I should have gone first in that question. And I'm back to Principal Kafele. I just believe, and he has done some cross work with some of the other leaders that we've mentioned. And so I just believe, given my current role with the state and my desire to always serve the students who maybe don't have as many advocates. So I would bring him. I'm not bringing a musician. I probably have ADD a bit, and so I would be all over the place, and I like to stick to,
focus.
I got to focus. So that's
Because
who I
are
would
you
choose.
driving?
I'm not getting in a car if I'm not driving. So I am absolutely
So you
driving
stay
the
focused,
car.
don't bring the musician.
I hope he doesn't want to drive because then I'd have to fight him, and I just don't. That probably wouldn't make for a good image for me.
Is
so
it, are you like a control freak?
I absolutely am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could care less
Yeah.
about driving.
I absolutely have to drive.
All right.
I don't mind if other people drive. I just don't want my husband to drive.
Ah, okay. Well,
Wasn't gonna bring him, I had to
Adele
say.
Adele can't drive because she's got to sing.
Right. Right.
So,
Absolutely.
and she would drive on the wrong side of the road.
Oh,
Right?
yeah, that'd be a problem.
True story. Yeah.
That'd be a problem.
That
I
would
didn't
not
think
work
about
out
that,
well.
but so would Simon Sinek.
Oh.
Yeah. This could be problematic. Okay.
be.
You can't
So,
road trip
and you're-
overseas. That'd be a problem.
Yeah, that would be a problem.
Well,
Yeah.
All right.
All
you
right.
could fly overseas and then do your road
could.
trip.
We
So,
could.
and then
Absolutely.
they could drive.
Yes.
So,
All right. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not looking. I don't know why I'm not looking. All right, next question. Who are the ed leadership influencers you follow on Twitter?
What's Twitter?
Oh my, we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
well, I'm going
All right.
first.
Okay,
I'm
you
just
go
going to
first.
say I'm
You
going
go first.
first.
All right.
So we've already talked about Todd Whitaker, and we've already talked about Principal Kafele. Those are 2 that I follow, but I also follow Anthony Muhammad. He works with Solution Tree.
Yes.
Great author, and I've had several opportunities through. I was part of the Indiana Principal Leadership Institute, so I got to meet so many people as a part of that program. And then Jim Knight. I am working on my dissertation, and I am studying all about coaching and the role that coaching plays for educators. And I just believe that every teacher should have a coach. And so his work is absolutely amazing. So those are the 4. I know you said 3, so I followed the rule last time, but I'm not following the rule this time since we're breaking rules.
Yeah. Love Jim Knight's work. Absolutely love it. His impact cycle is easy to follow, but it also has just really good, simple, yet very useful tools to use in order to coach teachers, but also I think to coach leaders as well. I don't think it's just teachers that need coaching. And I think Anthony Muhammad is just a rock star.
He absolutely is.
Yeah.
First time I heard him speak, I tried to figure out how I could go work for him.
Yeah.
I have not been successful yet, so hopefully he'll see this.
Because we kind of need you to stay.
Hopefully he'll see this, and then on down the line, then he'll say, "Oh yeah, it's time. It's time to come work with me."
Well, and he does a lot with culture and diversity, and he's just got such a strong, powerful message.
Yes.
So I love that. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, am I up?
Yeah. You're
Okay.
up.
I mean, you're the decider here.
Well,
She picked the question.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I second, third Todd Whitaker. I think he follows me too. I'm probably a letdown for him.
What?
But no, his work is inspiring and amazing. And then I'm going to go off grid just a little bit. And I work on all of our teacher leadership things at the state, and our teacher leader boot camp members are super inspiring. So I like to follow all of them and see what they're doing throughout our state to increase their capacity and throughout their schools. Our Milken educators and our teacher of the years for Indiana, and also for all of the states. I get to connect to them. So just watching, I mean, they were on the cover of People magazine. So that
Amazing.
was fantastic. And just seeing all the things that are happening throughout the state and throughout our country to spotlight teachers. And it is just inspiring for leadership and teacher leadership. So that's 1, 2, 56 territory. That's a lot. So
Yeah. That's great. One that I would add, because yes, second, third, and all those. One that I would add, we had John Spencer join us last year on Keep Indiana Learning at our summer conference. And then he also did our spring speaker series. And he just is a phenomenal voice in talking about lifting up educators and inspiring students, and just he has uplifting things to say. And it's not about, and especially in a time like this, it's always good to hear positive and not negative.
absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, so I like to read what he has to say on Twitter. It's good stuff.
It's so great to be able to amplify the positive when you're
Yeah.
scrolling along and there's so much negativity.
There is, yeah, and
I
so
see positive and follow.
Yes.
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 Absolutely.
Yes. He liked one of my tweets one time.
You're almost famous.
What? I know, right? Yeah, it was great. It was great. All right, I think we are back to you, Alicia.
Okay. If you had one question you could ask a room full of the most incredible ed leadership thought leaders, what would it be? Only one. Are we following the rules or are we not following the rules? One question. I'll let you all decide.
Okay, so we have to think about all the people we've just listed
Right.
as key authors and our Twitter folks and car ride, maybe Adele included.
Karaoke.
Okay, karaoke.
Well, we
and-
know who was most inspiring to Adele, her video that just went out, her teacher.
Yeah, yes. That was incredible. That was incredible. Okay, so what question? Who would you like to hear from first?
You all decide. You all decide.
Go for it.
Okay. Mine is about like our current situation, and I'm not going to be negative. I'm not going to be negative. So I don't want to be negative about the situation. But a lot of what I hear is that and true that educators have the last 20 months been through a lot, right? True statement. And students in the last 20 months have been through a lot. And as much as we have worked in education to normalize, whatever that means, things for students, and give them safety and security, and give them structure, it's been challenging, right? And so how do we, though, create a new, better normal and move forward in our work, knowing that we have to continue to innovate and we have to continue to move our instructional practices forward and continue to respond to research about how we reach students and how we continue to grow young minds. I would ask, how do we continue to do that when we've just been through what we've been through?
It's a great one.
I think it's challenging to find that balance, which is similar to the question that I would ask. So I'm going to go ahead. For me, I've already mentioned I think I have ADD. It's not diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure, given my everyday. And so when you think about balance, my question would be, when you're deep in the woods, how do you see the forest and the trees? Because, my mother reminded me this weekend that over the years as I've worked in schools, there have been several occasions where I've wanted to adopt children that I work with. And she's always saying, you have to think about the greater good and you have to think about all the children that you're helping and supporting. But how do we find that balance? How do we take a look at the last 20 months, but then also what's most important for our students and how and for our educators, right? I would love to just say teachers, but it's all educators are going through this. So how do we find that balance? How do you find the forest and the trees and the forest? So
Yeah.
And I would love to hear all of their answers, including Adele's.
I knew that was coming.
Yes.
Everybody's
I
answer.
would like to hear Adele's.
So I'm sure hers would be very inspirational and very positive.
I'm sure.
And I would like to hear the karaoke car guy.
Jim.
Yes.
You named him Jim.
Jim.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to hear
We're being
his.
yelled at again because his name's
I don't think that's
undoubtedly not Jim. That's okay though. It's Chris.
No, I have
We'll
to
stick
say
with Jim then.
Yeah.
So I think what I would ask, I have a lot of conversations in our household. I mentioned my husband and his driving, which is only fair because he's a firefighter paramedic, and so he drives everything like he drives an ambulance, or like he would have driven an ambulance.
Okay.
So
It
we'll
does.
revisit that for a second. But
I'm glad that you
yeah,
qualified
they connected
that.
the dots,
Yeah,
right?
I'm glad you did that.
So, and not every place we go is an emergency. So we don't need to drive that way. But anyways, love you, hon.
Oh dear.
I think we have conversations that are very similar, and we could take the terminology of educator and teacher and insert firefighter, paramedic, and have a lot of the same conversations. So then looking outside of just the world of education, I would want to ask our educational leaders, who impacts them the most in their leadership that is outside of education, and why? So when we think about how we improve and we continue to grow our capacity as leaders and teachers and things like that, not just focusing on that insular, like we're here in our space, but looking outside of our space to see what influences that can have on what we're doing. So
That would give us a whole new list of people to follow on Twitter,
right,
too.
exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to tweet that question out and tag some of these leaders and find out who they would follow.
That is a fantastic idea, because I really believe that we as educators, it's important to step out of education if you have an opportunity. And I hesitate to say that because we're losing educators all the time.
They can volunteer for
Yeah,
like little things.
right.
They don't have to step out
That's
of
what I
education.
mean. Like step out in a way that you can experience, and then quickly
And
step
then
back
bring it
in.
back.
Quickly step back in.
Very quickly.
But I think it's nice to dabble in opportunities that are not educational in nature, just because it's nice to see how education is such a wonderful, rewarding place to be. And the grass is not always greener on the other side. You don't have that. I come to work every day and I think about where I can come to work and I get to feel every day like I'm impacting children's lives. And I don't get to stand up in front of kids anymore. I used to be a teacher, but I still get to impact kids and teachers and leaders, and that is an amazing feeling. If I worked somewhere else out in the real world, I wouldn't have that feeling every day. And I'm sure there's places that people do have that feeling, but that's what I love about education. And it's hard work, such hard work.
So
and
rewarding,
it is so rewarding.
Yes.
And so I feel like if we all had an opportunity to just step out for a moment, we would rush back in.
The realization that what you have is so good in that moment, and just like yes, it's a challenge, but everything is a challenge in life these days. I feel like we should cheers to that. This has been sitting here. It's
our
white
grape
juice, sparkling grape juice.
Yes.
Cheers
so
to that,
everyone knows we are
100%.
not drinking
Yes.
at 9 in the morning. Yeah.
It is delicious grape juice, though.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
All right. We just have a couple more minutes. So I have to talk about our last question. So what is the greatest leadership book or author or person that has influenced you by far the most in your career?
Oh, mercy. Greatest influence by far in my career. Oh.
Dead or alive?
Oh. That just opened up a whole nother gamut of things. Well, who's yours?
Okay, I'll go first. I was
Okay.
waiting for you to say that.
okay,
Yes,
yes.
I was waiting for you to say this. Because I couldn't end this without saying. So, Jim Collins wrote Good to Great in 2001. And it was career changing for me. I had just come out of being a building principal, and it was an opportunity for me to reassess what I wanted to do in education. I was at a moment in my career where I realized being a building administrator was not what I wanted to do. And I was okay with that, even though I thought that was what I was supposed to do. It wasn't what I was supposed to do. There were other things I needed to do. But that book really changed my perspective on leadership, changed my whole thinking around what I could do in education. So I think it's one of those books that every leader should read.
I'm going to have to add it to my list
You
because
absolutely-
I've talked about it, I've heard about it a lot, but
Yeah.
I haven't actually
Good to
read
Great,
it. So
Jim
I'm gonna have
Collins.
to read
Are you
it.
tip of your tongue, or do you want me to
No,
go?
it doesn't make any difference.
Okay.
Look at
Well, I'm not
how
going to say
giving I'm being.
Yes,
and
you are being so giving, letting me win. I'm not going to say book, and we've talked about so many fantastic leaders. I'm going to go to sort of where my heart is with teacher leadership and say Miss Pride, second grade, Pioneer Elementary. I am a first-gen high school graduate, college student, the whole gamut of all the challenges that one could have faced coming up in education. And I feel like just having that inspiration and that you can do it has probably meant the most and been the most motivational and impactful in my life. That has gotten me here where I am today. So
That's fantastic.
yeah, right?
of course,
That
it
is
was
Teacher.
a teacher.
I'm
It was a
doing an
teacher,
Adele
yes.
moment, right? Like it was her.
that's
And I've tried to find her and I can't find her. She was very young when I had her, so she's probably still out there somewhere
Yeah.
doing something great. So Miss Pride, if
she'll
you're watching
see.
this from Phoenix, Arizona, or wherever you landed,
Yeah.
thank you.
Wow.
Oh,
Wow.
that's fantastic.
Okay, so now I have to give two answers.
Okay.
I had one
Nice.
answer ready, but I
Always
have
breaking the
two.
rules.
So
All right.
let's talk about a book first. So Gary Chapman's The 5 Love Languages, by far, not only in my career, but my personal life. And so, and I talked about this during my prelims, that book had the biggest impact because so often we put ourselves in someone else's situation and how would we respond, or what would we say and what would we do. And when we take ourselves out of that and think about what's in the best interest of that person or how they relate or what they would say. That really changed me as a leader. It changed me. I was not married. I don't even think I was dating anybody when I read the book, but I think that it has had an impact as a mother and as a wife, and then as a team member, in addition to being a leader. And so that book, I recommend it to everybody anybody I ever talk to. I always recommend that book. And then now I have to steal from you. And so I do have a specific teacher, but I'm not going to mention a specific teacher. Instead, I'm going to talk about my tribe, which if you follow me on Twitter or you're a Facebook friend of mine, I talk about my tribe so often. I have been surrounded with some of the very best people in the world. And most of them are here in Indiana, so the best people in the world come from Indiana. But some just people who have always seen in me what I have not seen in myself. And I had teachers along the way that did that, but as I became a professional, I started teaching when I was 22, and my kids were 18. My students were 18, which is the most challenging thing in the world. But I had a principal who believed in me. I had an administrative team who believed in me. And that August, when I first started teaching in a long time ago.
One of those years.
A long time ago. I think it was 2001. At any rate, when I started teaching then, they immediately said, go back and get your administrator's license. And so I just have always been surrounded by good people, like you all too.
That's fantastic.
That's amazing.
We all have a tribe. And now you guys are part of my tribe.
Yes.
Yes,
Happy to
that's
be.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Well, cheers
Cheers.
to that. Excellent. Thank you all for joining us for Who's Who in 2022, and have a wonderful 2022. Happy New Year. Bye.
We were really moving forward as a public high school. We were trying to become trauma informed.
Our school board members have always been very concerned about the well-being of the students and mental health. We rolled out Terrace Metrics during the pandemic. We knew that if we were able to reach out to them through this screener, that the ones that were struggling, we would become aware of.
So we've been able to find the students that have critical needs, as well as students who just need a little bit of help and encouragement and support.
We handled the interviews really as just great conversation, as opposed to some kind of a stressful situation where we have to get it done in a certain time. And that alleviated a lot of the stress. We have had very few parents opt out. And what's unique is that once we give the survey and other students are getting the results, we've had those parents contact us and say, I would like my student to still take it.
We really didn't receive any community resistance, and they would let us know if they didn't want their child to take it. But I would say we received 2 or 3 of those.
We had a lot of informative sessions, a lot of question and answer opportunities that led people to be comfortable with the process.
One concern for us was the amount of time that it was going to take, and we were pleasantly surprised that that was not the case, that the follow-up conversations were actually very positive and informative and actually turned out to be not nearly as stressful as we thought.
It was very easy to get started with Terrace Metrics because they provided the information that we needed, along with continuous support as we engaged in the process together.
We could look specifically at school-wide data to look at our positives and then identify the areas we need to move forward with.
Because we're using Terrace Metrics, we can now identify the students who need more mental health supports, more targeted interventions, and we have also seen a major increase in the number of threat assessments that we have conducted for students that we had no idea were struggling internally.
Staff reported there were some really big surprises in terms of thinking the student was doing great, grades were great, attitude was great. What happened here, all of a sudden they're rising up to a priority 1.
We were able to use the data from the survey to come up with concrete steps and tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions very quickly.
Honestly, I feel like the data can be trusted because I feel like it's valid and reliable. I think there has been a considerable amount of research done. It's been used in a variety of settings across the country. and that definitely adds to the validity and the reliability.
Because Terrace Metrics is run by mental health professionals, we feel they understand the importance of confidentiality and protecting data that is referencing the mental well-being of young people.
Absolutely, I would recommend Terrace Metrics. I don't think they would find another company that would be better to work with through this process. And I also don't think you can find another company that can be more expedient and accurate with their information and results.
I would definitely recommend Terrace Metrics because of the ease of use, the speed with which you find out what students are in trouble or needing assistance that you would have no idea if you did not run through this screener with your students.
The immediacy of getting your results is spot on. We wholeheartedly recommend it. We're using it. We're getting our feeder schools involved with this because we're seeing great results from this product.
I would love to help others realize how easy it can be, but also how important it is to realize that we have many, many children out there who need help, but no one can tell it. And so this is critical.